Hey guys, welcome to Peripheral Vision, and today I wanted to talk a little bit about game collecting. For those that don't know, I used to be a really big collector for several years, and although I've fallen out of that community and sold off a lot of my collection, I still keep up with it. And I wanted to talk a little bit about my history as a collector, how I feel about the current collecting climate, and I wanted to ask a few questions of my viewers to see what kind of collections or like how you feel about collecting. So I guess I should start with my personal history as a collector. I collected games and game memorabilia for a period of about 3 years, about 4 years ago. And for those that have seen a lot of my content, you'll know that my two big things that I collected a lot of were weird peripherals, which is how I got the channel name. It was really fascinating to see how different controllers interface with systems and how that changed over time. And the other big thing I collected was Mario stuff, and that was my big thing. My initial goal as a collector was actually to own every Mario game, and about a year into that I realized that was kind of a ridiculous goal. I topped out, I think, there's hundreds and hundreds of Mario games, and I think I topped out when I stopped collecting at maybe 250, 260 unique titles. So I got a good ways in, but there was still plenty to go after that. So that's a little bit of a history of my personal collecting habits. Now, I sold almost that off. Nowadays, I keep everything pretty simple. I only buy games that I really want to play, and I focus on trying to get like compilation discs and collections and things so I can play the games more efficiently. And as far as the memorabilia, I keep everything to one singular shelf. I have a shelf up in the office, which is like all of my favorite things that I've collected over the years. And there's stuff from the old collection there, but it's really parsed down. It's really limited now. And maybe I'll get another shelf someday, but for right now, I try to keep to one singular area so I don't go like spiral out of control and end up buying a bunch of random stuff. But that's where I was and kind of where I am now. But I have been keeping up. I do watch videos on the current collecting climate, and I have a couple friends that are what I call mega collectors. They're people that have those giant collections you see that people post on Facebook about that shows like all the rare stuff in them, and I've kind of kept in touch with the collecting community, and there's a few things I noticed that I thought were of note. The first thing is it's even if I wanted to get back into collecting these days, I think it's become prohibitively expensive. I've noticed that retro gaming has become this bubble. When I was a younger collector, I got most of the basic stuff you get with a retro games collection for a cost that I would say isn't like, like lose your home over it. But nowadays, like it's really even the simpler, like the more basic titles to get are pretty expensive. So I don't think I could ever get back into that. And I hope that eventually the retro gaming bubble does burst and it becomes a little bit easier for entry, because I think that you're going to price out a lot of new collectors, and that will kind of cause the collecting scene to cave in on itself. But maybe that's me. I just think it's a little bit expensive these days. The other thing that I noticed with collecting is and this was true back when I was collecting too, I guess, but there's a lot of posturing in the collecting community, it seems like. And with the internet being what it is, and with social media being what it is, that has kind of like escalated. And that's another thing, that if I were collecting, I don't want to collect to be competitive, and I think there's a lot of people that are in the collecting scene that are really unnecessarily competitive. They can't just be happy with what they have. They have to make sure that other people know that they have more than them, which is weird to me, because the two guys that I know that are the mega collectors, one of which I would say would want his identity not released on a video, so I won't say anything about that. The other one though is a guy whose Instagram tag is Intrepid Class Gaming. And I'll link him in the description to him. He's a real cool guy. He's got probably the biggest collection I've ever seen. And he's not, for lack of a better phrasing, he's not a dick about it, you know? He he's got just all like any of the weird rare stuff that you can think of, he's got it. I think he might be missing some of the competition carts, but like he's got like just tons of prototype consoles and rare limited editions, and go check him out. He's got if you like seeing other people's collections, I'd really recommend looking at his stuff. But I've never seen him like hold his collection over somebody else, and I would say like that's probably a good example for how to be a decent person as well as like a high level game collector. But I would say he is definitely in the minority with that. I don't think like a lot of the high end game collectors I don't know, I haven't had a positive conversations with, and I think the thing if you're going to brag about being involved in the game collecting community or the game preservation community, I think you should really be focused more about the knowledge that you're gaining from owning these things. I like people that treat their collections as a miniature museum, as something that this is this microcosm of culture and history of the gaming community, and like look at all this interesting information that I have about it because I own all this stuff, and you can take a look. It's like a tangible piece of history. So I think if you're going to brag about like that kind of thing, you should brag about like look how much I know, look how much I know, look how much I've preserved. It shouldn't be like look I've got all these toys and my toys are better than your toys. But so those are the I would say negative aspects of game collecting. And I'm sure this is the same when I was in the collecting scene, but I think social media exacerbates that a lot. So, and I think there's some positives though. Like I mentioned before, there are those one-man museum type things where they are preserving a ton of video game history and like physical items and stuff. And I love those. I think that's really cool. But yeah, so that's where, from what I understand, game collecting is today. And I guess that leaves the last bit. I wanted to ask the viewers, what do you think about game collecting today? Are you a mega collector? Are you like a big time collector? You get everything? And if so, like what are your collecting goals? Just tell me what like your history and your thoughts. And feel free to, if you're on Facebook, post on the Peripheral Vision Facebook with collection pictures, or tag me in something on Instagram or so whatever. But yeah, so I just want to talk for a minute about games and game collecting. Let me know your thoughts down below. Thank you for your time, and as always, later days.